This edition of Tackle. It is the 22nd of November 2021, tarehe 22 mwezi wa 11 mwaka 2021. 1 month to Christmas. Merry Christmas in advance once again. Just in case you don't get to hear from me. Na pia mnaweza tuma zawadi in advance, deposit ya zawadi ya Christmas. This month already 1 month to Christmas. I hope you're ready. It's another new week. It's a fresh week on the Tackle. It's a common sense edition of the 22nd November 2021. Tarehe 24 mwezi wa 11 mwaka 2021. Kama kawaida, request when you join in, please like. When you like, we get to know that you're watching us, and after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch podcast. This is a Tackle that begins now. Kama kawaida, tuko na IRENE WANJIKU, anasemanga kwa Kiswahili mtendakazi mkuu. You unajua, when I translate in English, you realize that the CEO title actually ni kazi ngumu sana. The CEO REXE. Tuko na KANJI ambaye ni financial and management consultant. Kama kawaida nazungumzia mambo ya biashara. We talk about my life and money. Your life and your money. Karibuni sana unijoni, please like. When you like, we get to know that you're watching us, and after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. Nimeona watu wanapenda airtime sana. Nimeona wangona mamka hapa mapema asubuhi. Umesikia kuna airtime hapa inapeanwa. Wanamerauka mapema sana. Your Sylvie Kip number 1, Moitalel Kibet Peter number 2, number 3 Hilary Nua, number 4 Suleiman Loop, number 5 Collins Kipchirchir, number 6 Dickens Amino, number 7 Kip Koech Kip, number 8 Kip Rob Arab Chemut, number 9 Balozi Eric Meja, number 10 Vincent Tanui. Haya, au watu ambao waza kupata airtime, tuma nambari yako, tuma namba yako kwa inbox. Sylvie Kip tuma nambari, Moitalel Kibet Peter tuma nambari, Hilary Nua tuma nambari, Suleiman Loop tuma nambari, Collins Kipchirchir, Dickens Amino tuma nambari, Kip Koech Kip tuma namba, Kip Rob Arab Chemut tuma namba, Balozi Eric Meja tuma namba, na Vincent Tanui bet tuma nambari. Those are the top 10 on the Tackle this morning. Karibuni sana. Kama kawaida lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu basi tukirudi na kuja kuwapa salamu zenu. Na tunaombewa leo na mdos IRENE WANJIKU. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks
for
having
week.
us. Yeah.
Amna gani?
Yeah, like you said, we are happy. It's almost towards the end of this year, and we are still here, so we are grateful.
Haya. Tupeleke mbele za Mungu basi.
Okay, let's pray. Dear Lord, we come before your presence. We thank you for this morning. We thank you for even taking care of us throughout this year and even last year, even throughout the pandemic. And we ask that you may bless everything that we are doing. We pray for our viewers that you may also bless them and be with them in all their undertakings. In Jesus' name I pray and believe.
Amen. Asante sana. Thank you so much, IRENE, for the prayers. Nashukuru sana. Sasa wacha nipeleke Barosi Eric Meja Serikali Kuyani Kakamega County already locked in. Vincent Kibet, good morning. Misharia Mitch, good morning. Mega Esbon Mogire niko ndani, asante sana, good morning. Kipro S Rogers, good morning. Brad Kibet, good morning. Collins, good morning. Tom Rono Eyewitness, good morning. Kiprono Arab Chemut, good morning. Wakili Mwenda Kadhali, good morning. Peter Kipkuri Rono, good morning. Rashid Abdallah Chema Sweat, hapo umepona, good morning to my brother. Kusana Gilot, good morning. Edwin Maina, good morning. Nick Marisim, good morning. Jeriad Moss, good morning. Junior Timosh, good morning. Akusana Gilot, good morning. Dennis Lagat, good morning. Steve Mayaka, good morning. Anita Chesire, good morning to you. Anita Ben Chumba, Ndani Kabisa, good morning. Eno Jerry, good morning. Shadi Rono, good morning. Marion Eva, good morning. Nitamu Wakiru, good morning. Mashalma, thank you, good morning. Balosi Eric Meja, the government should know health is personal. Have a right to live or die. Don't impose other restrictions to poor Wanjiku. Tumechoka na serikali wamaliza waende. Haya, dieti ilibidi wamesema Wanjiku because ile Wanjiku tuko naye hapa hajadungwa pia. Good morning, Festus Gettage. Good morning, Mike Karani. Good morning, Shasi Jebs. Good morning, Bitok, my Benny Kolokta. Sana to my Ben. Bomet Nisisi. Good morning. Vincent Tani. Good morning. Anas Lagat. Good morning. Bomet. Akona Florence Mohia. Good morning. T-Rock. Bernard. Asante sana. Na tunaanza na hapa. The government is saying you'll not be able to access any services, any in-person services. Hata kama unaenda kukunywa, uwezi kunywa bila COVID vaccine. Shida kubwa. Kwanza hapo kwa kukunywa kwa Kenya. Sherehe. Haya. So, uwezi piga sherehe tena kuanzia tarehe 21 hata Christmas. You'll not be able to have a drink if you are not vaccinated. Kwa hivyo serikali imesema you'll not be able to get any in-person services if you are not vaccinated, if you don't have a COVID certificate. Sijui nani amepata vaccine na hajapata vaccine. Lakini tuanze kwa wale watu ambao hawajavaccinatiwa kwanza. Wanjiku nasema they should not continue to oppress the Wanjiku. Wanjiku. Wanjiku.
Yeah, I can be the representative of the Wanjikus. Yeah. But on the vaccine issue, I do think that the government means well. I think studies and research has shown that if you already have the vaccine, then even if you got the virus, that you're it will not be as bad. You'll not be as badly off like someone who didn't get the vaccine. Okay. So it's important. Probably they're saying, I don't think that they will really be able to enforce that you cannot have a drink, or I think that's a bit extreme. But yeah, the vaccine is for our good, and everybody should now strive. I think the biggest reason why people are not taking it previously was to give room for really the critical people, if you had pre-existing conditions or whatever ages that had been given the limit, and now it's available. So yeah, let's all go and get it.
So who are you? Who have you been giving space yourself?
The vulnerable.
The vulnerable.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So who told you you're not vulnerable?
Well, the measures, I am not the one who came up with the measures. They were given by World Health Organization.
What did they say?
If you have any pre-existing conditions, run and get the vaccine. If you're above, I think was it 50 or 55 years? Above 55 years, go and get the vaccine. So we have all those. And you do even remember in Kenya, the first schedules that were being done, they were very particular on who could get. In fact, if you got it during that time, you need to tell us how you are able to access, because I don't think you're even also in those categories. Okay. But now that I think that we are done with those categories, now we should really run and get the vaccine.
Okay. Yeah. Surprisingly, more young people actually dying out of COVID than old people. Interestingly. Alright. Watu wa Tanzania pia wanasema good morning Jera Bito, kwani uko wapi pia ambao hawajadungwa? Kwani kwenu Tanzania watu wamedungwa? Mlisema kwamba COVID-19 haipo Tanzania. Mlikuwa mnadungiwa nini tena? Haya. Sasa tunasema kasaizi Calvin sema kuna watu hawajadungwa Kenya hii. Na Tanzania pia naweza shangaa sana kama kuna watu wamedungwa Tanzania, kwa sababu kwa muda mrefu tulisikia Tanzania hakuna COVID. Anyway, Kanji, will you be among the people who will not drink, or will you be drinking?
It will depend on the mood at that time. Yeah.
Madungwa?
But nimedungwa.
Okay. Dozi kama Wanjiku. You're not giving.
Mimi sio Wanjiku. She's fearing the injection. She's waiting for the tablet.
Anaogopa shindano.
Anaogopa tablet. Anataka tablet.
Najua Kenya walisema hakuna yenye wanaweza kwa pombe.
Kila mtu ako na pombe.
Yeah. Above the head. Tuambia. All right, so what do you think about what the government is saying about restricting movement?
I don't know how enforceable that is going to be. But I think the move is in right taste. And really, I don't know why we complicating the issue, because we have gone through several vaccinations before. And sometimes it's always good to let the experts tell us what we are supposed to do. Okay. So these other cultural or things and some hard conversations that when you get vaccinated, this and that is not going to happen, or is going to happen to you. Yeah, you will run slower. You will become fatter. You will become slimmer. It really doesn't add up.
Walisema pia nini zinapotea?
Zikipotea utazitafuta tu tena. You know. And you can see from
transformer inakuwa shida kidogo.
Even from the developed countries, you can see they have really almost gone back to their normal activities. You can see their stadiums are full now. And some of them are even hardly in masks. And I can see from the trends, the numbers are going down. So I think probably in the next few months we'll be out of it. Probably until 100 more years. When we'll be long and forgotten. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Talking about stadiums, Manu alifanywa ile kitu, and now Ole is out. And so you're not very happy this weekend. I am a new fan or an Arsenal?
Arsenal fan.
An Arsenal?
Yeah.
Pia mlifanywa ile kitu.
Sisi tumezoea.
Tukakubali.
Watu wa Man U ndio hawajawahi zoea.
They're still struggling.
Inaendelea na hawajakubali. Yeah. It's the hope that kills. Yeah.
So now that Ole is out, do you see anything better coming up?
We hope so. I think they have a good squad. They just need a good manager with experience. So they are actually more hopeful than Arsenal, at least in this season. But I don't know about the next season.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, back to the country, a country living on Fuliza. Every other Kenyan right now, sijui uko na Fuliza pesa ngapi? Mahali upo, ujui Fuliza uko nani ya pesa ngapi? Kila siku hizi utaka kutumia mtu pesa, sema hapana usiweke hiyo, iko na Fuliza. Kenyans are finding it easy to buy a new line at, I think, is it 50 shillings or 100 shillings now? They're finding it easy to buy a new line than to pay Fuliza. It's a country running and living on Fuliza. And every other, even the country itself, I saw the other day, the World Bank index on debt was showing that Kenya is the highest risk for debt. It was, I think Uganda is safer, Tanzania is safer, Rwanda comes third, and Kenya comes last on a very red line as a country that you cannot allow to take debt. The risk, that risk is very high. So I don't know, you need to have a discussion around the debts that the country is running, and also as well, what effect does it have on your business? What effect does it have on you as a person and the things that you do on your daily life? But anyway, let's start with Kenyans. Watu wanaishi na Fuliza Kenya hii. Uko na Fuliza Wanjiku?
Saying a Fuliza, but I know that a lot of Wanjikus out here, they are living on Fuliza, and I think we do, and we know that some of the reasons are maybe low wages. There are still some organizations probably that are paying low wages. Of course, we can say why there are many reasons why that could be the case, why they are not able to match at least a living wage, where when you pay someone, at least you're sure that they are able to sustain their basic needs. And that probably is not happening. It could also be issues that we are not good at saving. I remember during the pandemic, most people, it was reported that because jobs were sometimes cut off without any notice, and some people could not even sustain, let's say, the same lifestyle that they were on during employment for the next, like, even 3 months. And mostly it's because there's also the challenge of savings. You know, the saving culture is not something that we have worked very hard on to. We are not talking about it enough. Everybody assumes that the next person knows how to save their money or where to save it. There are also other challenges that have been there. And like I keep saying, something like medical cover in this country, good medical cover is extremely high. So you find that even though you had the money, some people had actually savings for even up to maybe 5 months, and then they got somebody sick in the family, and then all that money was swept away. So it's time also to start looking at probably insurance, even as the government. The medical was part of the healthcare, rather, was part of the Big Four agenda. But I don't know how far the government has gone with that agenda. I think it's been overtaken by events, because we are still to see really everybody I've spoken to who had somebody at the hospital, you find that they opted for private care, because sometimes the government hospitals are at full capacity. So you see, that will clean out all your savings. Sometimes even with insurance, you need more money. And so where do people turn to when you ask? I saw somebody writing the other day that they have very good friends, and they were in crisis the other day, and they tried to borrow money, and nobody, out of the 5 friends, nobody had any money. And not that they were refusing, they just didn't have it. So this is why probably people are going to Fuliza. We are also having a betting issue that we have to address in this country. People are betting everything that they are getting. So you can imagine, you've been paid all your salary, and you went to these betting institutions, and you've spent everything. So what is left? Nothing. So what do? Fuliza is ready to give you money. But we have also to wonder at what cost. So the kind of billions that they are making in terms of profits. And already these are really people that are already struggling, whether also because you are living beyond your means. For whatever reason that you're going to borrow this money, the cost is extremely high. So it's almost now becoming a major crisis in this country. Even when these institutions are reporting these billions, what is happening to the pockets of the Kenyans is that they are running empty. So it's a crisis.
Right. Okay, Kanji, you have a country that's living on small credit. That's living on Fuliza technically. Does that speak then on the state of the economy as it is?
I think it doesn't really reflect exactly on the fact that someone is borrowing does not really mean that the economy is doing bad. But then again, I'm also not saying
Let's
that
move your mic.
I'm not saying that the economy is doing very well. But one of the characteristics or one of the things that Kenyans love, or probably human beings, but let's deal with Kenyans, is credit. Some people borrow because credit is available.
Okay.
Yeah, you have the money, or you're not really pressed. Yeah, it's not necessary for you to borrow. You don't even have a plan for this money, but you just borrow because the money is available.
Okay.
So no one is going to calculate the cost of that borrowing and find it that it is good for me to borrow through this channel. But then again, if you look at it from the target market, and from that report that came out, that most of the Fuliza or most of the small credit is going to gambling. Yeah? But now the question is, when these corporates or when these gambling or betting companies, when they make profit, where does that profit go? Yeah, you find that most of them are actually owned by foreigners, and it is going to resort to a lot of and very high level of capital flight. And where is that capital flowing from? It's flowing from the bottom. So I don't know if that's an example of trickle down on bottom up, but you're taking money from the very disadvantaged people.
Yeah.
Because you'll hardly see those advertisements, those posters and such in high-end or what they call the leafy suburbs. Yeah, they are all only going to target those people who are living hand to mouth. They feel like, I can double my money. Also targeting someone who wants a quick fix in terms of you want to get rich quickly. But the other finally thing with this small credit is the fact that it's just like a corporate running on overdraft.
Okay.
And you realize that once you tip down to the overdraft, it hardly ever comes back up. You will always want to run on that overdraft, and you will never calculate the cost of that living. So if you do the math, it's going to affect the rising of these individuals and the rising of these companies in terms of building their own capital. So debt has its good side, but for this particular area, it's mostly a negative. Yeah.
All right. And the question is like Irene is saying, at what cost? Because it's easy to take credit because nobody ever thinks actually about the cost of it. It's nice when you're like, nipe. Sasa ukisimamisha mtu kabarani naambia, nikupe deni. Haiwezi kuuliza ati na pesa ngapi. Anakuambia later. You hardly think about the cost of credit. And in Kenya, we have loan sharks. People we have Shylocks, we have digital now loan sharks and all that. And there seems to be very limited regulation on that. When you look at the most fintechs who are dishing out credit, they're at almost 200%. Or they're charging you. So at what cost does credit come, and who regulates it? How do we regulate this system? Because then you're getting more people depressed by debt. You're getting more people depressed by gambling. You take up debt, kwenda kugamble, then inakunywa maji. The cycle continues. How do we regulate this? Who regulates it?
Yeah, before you even go to regulation, because this is the unregulated market, yeah? But you have to understand the psychology of the person going to take credit. If they have a problem, those calculations you're talking about
don't matter at that
they
time.
don't matter. I need to pay my rent today at whatever cost, because the cost of not doing it is probably directly even higher. So we hardly do the math. Then it's the hope of the next time that it's just like when someone comes to you for a soft loan and they tell you that I'm going to refund this money in a week's time. Most of them actually have a very clean intention that I will refund this money on this particular day. But when that day comes, things don't add up, so they will borrow someone else to pay you. Then it goes on like that. So we addressing the issue of most of them are actually living beyond their means. So, but because Kenya, we adore the middle class, or we adore a good life, we will never want to slim or structure ourselves so that we live within our means. And that is one of the other major causes of these small debts. Yeah, but yes, it is also caused by mostly the fact that the economy is not doing so well. We have not created jobs as we should. Yeah, the area we are dealing with is not even full employment for us. We're talking of reasonable employment, which is not coming into fruition. And those are the areas that the politicians and the policies are supposed to be addressing right now. Yeah.
How do you regulate this? Is it important to regulate that market of credit, especially shark credit or loan shark credit? Is there a need to regulate it?
I think there would be a need to regulate it, but don't forget, because sometimes people are thinking that these loan sharks are not registered, because there's a big difference. Some are in fact registered, only that
they're not
there's
regulated.
that room for unregulated, and you have both. You've seen instances where people also have lost money or not been able to get their money back, and when they try to go to court, it's not, I don't think it's illegal. KANJI can correct me on
it's
this.
Not illegal,
to not have it regulated. But is there need to have it regulated? Of course there's need to have it regulated. Is it currently, are there any steps being taken to regulate it? I'm not aware of them. But yes, it would be, because can you imagine you borrowed 10,000 bob and then you're getting it almost at 100%. So if you default in 3 months, these same people want over 30,000 from you. And if you had a problem of 10,000, where will you have gotten this 30,000
to fix now this new problem?
To fix now this new problem. In most cases, some people, and that's why you keep hearing usitume kwa hiyo number, because they are thinking what is most important. The more, and you can imagine with debt, the more it
priority of
up,
needs.
the harder it becomes to pay. Even this overdrafts, the KANJI talked a bit about overdrafts. If you realize that most companies that are operating on overdraft, it usually becomes very hard to stop getting, just asking for the money, because you get to a point whereby now you're fully operating on the overdraft and you're not even able to do your costings for your business. It's the same thing with this Fuliza money, or whichever, I don't want to, besides the Fuliza, because we also know the interests are quite high, and these are the unregulated markets. It's the same crisis that now once you get into it, coming out is really hard. So what is easier is to keep getting new lines, to keep borrowing now with the new lines until now they can even curb it and say, okay, now beyond this you cannot, because now you have to give your ID. But people sometimes are even getting an ID from somebody else and saying, give me your ID. I need a new line, because they still must keep borrowing. So we need, in my opinion, they would need to be regulated, because they are killing Kenyans. And like KANJI is saying, some of this money is not even being used in this country. That's why you'll find it's billions that these betting companies were a big beneficiaries, I would say, of this money, and then they take the money away. So we are just left poorer than we were had they not even come into play. And look at it, really, the people who gamble a lot. It's people that honestly are living below the minimum wage. Like, it's hard that if you're earning some good, okay, of course there are some where it is an addiction, and maybe Charity, the psychologist, can come and talk more about this, but the majority of the people that are betting are living below the minimum wage. And yet this, if we look at it, I saw the other day a report by Business Daily, sometimes last year, saying that they've looked at accounts, and they are less than, I think, 100,000 Kenyans with a minimum of 100,000 in their accounts. So it's telling you that the majority of the people are actually the people living, let's say, below this, what we are calling the minimum wage, or hand to mouth, for lack of a better term. And yet they're the same people that are, they are the majority, and they're the same people who are being exploited, because to some point this is exploitation.
Yes.
Because where does it stop? Even if I need the money, and I'm using it badly and I'm not able to get it, chances are I'll have to readjust my life, the way I'm living, so that I'm within my budget. But if I know that walking around, sometimes you're even sitting like this and a message comes in, no collateral, nothing, borrow up to 200,000. And maybe that time
that's
someone is on my someone is there.
Lakini unakuwa na timing sasa zile uko na stress ya pesa. But tulia tu ndo unasikia.
It's It's like they can tell. So you hear, oh, you can call now, or we can call. They even offering to call you. You know, you can say call me now, and then you have the money, and then but you don't at that time because also you are desperate. Yeah, you're not even in a position to count the cost. But if this did not exist, chances are you'll not die because you did not get that money, isn't it? So with regulation, it's like the bank, really. When you go because we're in business, sometimes you need money for inventory and other things. The bank is very clear. Before we give you this money, we must see how will you be able to pay back. And then they will look and they will evaluate and tell you, this is the amount you can. Because all of us, if you're in business, you'd want 500 million, you'd want 1 billion, because as entrepreneurs, we always have this mega
dreams and vision.
Yeah, exactly. So then we say the only thing that's standing between us and those
is money.
Is money. So if the bank can give you 1 billion, you are very happy, But
until it's time to repay.
But then the bank is mitigating that, because they have their own regulations.
Yes.
They are telling you, yes, we understand your dreams. One day you'll get there, but for now you only qualify for 1 million. So it's up to you to organize yourself within that million. So you see, without that regulation, we would also have a lot of businesses collapsing because of the same issues, like an individual. Because at the end of the day, we have to start with the basic unit, which is that person. Then you're going to businesses, then you're going into the country. And if you look at it, it's all going to be, at the end of the day, it's interconnected. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm on behalf. Good morning. Good morning to you, Benny, and Danny and Ann. Good morning. Elias Lagar, good morning. Tuned in from Elgon View, Eldoret. Frank Oyo, no government services, you won't vote. Sawa pia hiyo mambo iko sawa pia. Bernard Wafula live. Unasema Abisan Benjamin, mimi nitadungwa tu when I decide. Hii ya serikali kushurutisha tumezoea, walianza na huduma namba tukajua venye tulifanya ikawa null and void. BBI tukaicheza kama sisi. Pia hata hii ya kusema hatutapata huduma itakuwa tu null and void. And by the way, what services do they give us in those offices? They just slave for us in the government offices. and I think that speaks again to the national psyche on government, because if someone can say, okay, you're telling me you'll not give me services. Which services? Which services are you talking about? Because the Kenyans believe the government itself is ineffective in giving services. So asking, you're saying you'll not give us services. Which services are you talking about? All right. Franco, I have a family member who took the job. She has been hospitalized with a 4 million bill. Can't go through that again. Secondly, we have been infected and recovered. All right. Okay. Ms. Kandema, following. Zakaria, means a group of Santa Tobinesh watching from Lodwa. So the Sana to Lodwa. Niliuliza kama uko na fuliza. Do you have a fuliza? Nimeona Wafula Wangila anasema fuliza lazima. Erasta Shikuku anasema imemaliza 5 months na niko na 2 new lines. Ala, okay. Just in Kontaza watching from Kericho. Asante sana. Silas Kiai. Na hii uchumi mbaya fuliza ni lazima. Keep quiet, keep retro. It teaches us as youth. Asante sana. James Mutinda. Good morning, watching live from Likoni Ferry Mombasani. La Koske anasema Gerald Bitoka pana. Anasema anafuliza. Anasema bora utume pamoja na ya kutoa. Okay. Hiyo ilikuwa kitambo, siku hizi nituma kwa hii nyingine. Usitume kwa hiyo. Haya, hizi ngalo logged in kiongozi. Asante. Keep quiet, keep anasema facts here. Asante sana. We roll in the conversation. We want to remind you that this show, the Common Sense edition of every Monday, is brought to you by REXE Roofing. REXE Roofing gives an opportunity to roof your house the most beautiful ways: quality roofing, shingles, stone coated tiles. Na pia after roofing you need to have some water, 100% safe for consumption. But with a disclaimer, only if you use the right shingles from REXE Roofing. Otherwise ukienda kuchukua pale barabarani utakuwa unakunywa granules, unakunywa rangi, unakunywa mambo mingi, alafu unaanza kugeuka. Kama rangi ilikuwa kama tile ilikuwa ya green, unaanza kuona unakaa green hivi, mambo yanaanza kusumbua kwa maisha. So ensure that if you want to have water safe for consumption, you can only use quality roofing shingles from REXE Roofing or stone coated tiles with different profiles. You can also have a shingle profile actually in a stone coated tile. Niliona kuna pale watu Eldoret sana, you're looking through Eldoret, a lot of people adopting the same roofing technology, and you're seeing you can actually have a shingle look with stone coated tiles. If you want to have a classic roof, you can adopt it. You can get stone coated tiles, but also with a shingle look. But you can also go for shingles if you want quality and you want something unique on your roof, and we're giving you a guarantee of 10 years for workmanship guarantee. I want to separate this for you. Niliona mtu jana alikuwa anasema ati 10 years ni kidogo kwa roof. You're telling you 10 years is for workmanship guarantee. That tells you that if you install your roof, you'll be there for the next 10 years to ensure that it's not leaking, everything is well installed. If there's a problem, we'll be able to fix it within the 10 years. Nobody gives you such a guarantee on the market. Mtu anaekanga, anasonga, ameenda project ingine. Nobody cares about how your roof looks like. But you'll be there for 10 years to ensure that your roof is well installed and there's nothing that is going wrong on your roof. The cuttings are done, the leaks, there are no leaks. The bedding on your shingles is perfectly okay. So 10 years will be there. But you're giving also as well a 50 years product guarantee. Two different guarantees here. Workmanship guarantee and product guarantee. 50 years product guarantee ensures that your roof will still be there for 50 years. And I always tell you this. I don't know where you'll be in the next 50 years. I don't know where I'll be. But I can guarantee you that your roof will still be there looking beautiful and as strong as it used to be 50 years ago. So you can ask yourself, 50 years ago, where were you? Angeza ingine sasa 50 years. Utakuwa happy. So I can guarantee you that your roof will still be there for 50 years. Product guarantee from REXE Roofing. If you want to get a roof for yourself, you can start also saving pole pole. If you're building next year in June, you can start paying for your roof mdogo mdogo pole pole. Ikifika wakati huo basi roof yako itakuwa imekuwa tayari. That's an offer we're giving you from REXE Roofing. Also, we're giving you 10% off on waterproofing solutions. This waterproofing membrane and waterproofing liquid, 10% off as we celebrate our 10-year anniversary. Irene hajatuletea party, alituambia kuna party inakuja. I don't know what happened. Party lini Irene?
Party inakuja. Sasa unajua mwezi wa party umekaribia. Yeah.
Tupe tarehe mapema, tunataka kununua suti.
Tutaleta tarehe.
Ama utatengeneza suti ya shingles.
Ama ya gata. Sasa kunanyesha pia. So gatas maybe.
And by the way, yes, it's raining now. It's raining now. And gatas ya mabati. Ile kelele iko kwa gata za mabati. Tafadhali wachane nazo. We are building, please use UPVC water harvesting gutters. Haina kelele basi. Ni kama uko nje na unalipa rent. Tafadhali kama unajenga, stay away from steel gutters. Don't get steel gutters, right? Stay away from steel gutters, please. Tumia UPVC water harvesting gutters. It's actually also 100% safe. 100% safe for water harvesting. So wachana maneno ya kuweka mabati, unaweka shingles alafu unaweka mabati kwa harvest maji. Tafadhali wachana nayo. Also, when you're using the UPVC water harvesting gutters, you stay away from the rust. Kama unaweka mabati basi, you can never guarantee that you'll be off the rust. Unaweza kuwa unapata kwamba una harvest chuma, unakunywa chuma kila siku asubuhi. So kuhakikisha kwamba umeweka the right water harvesting gutters. Tumia roofing gutters ya UPVC water harvesting gutters from REXE Roofing as well. Everything roofing solutions under one roof. You say you provide roofing solutions. When you say roofing solutions, we mean everything that has anything to do with the roof, from waterproofing to water harvesting to covering your roof as well. The decking, also steel trusses for the roof. Unaweza kupata pale. Kuna pia ingine inaitwa nini clear? Polycarbonate. Yeah. You have the polycarbonate. So if you're building, you ensure that you have a proper polycarbonate. That is REXE Roofing. Visit www.rexeroofing.com for the widest variety on your shingles as well. You can choose different profiles that are available there. I cannot be able to give you right on here, but you can go and check and ensure that you can see on your screen some samples that have been done. And kimbia pale, unaweza pata kimbia pale mtumao kutoka Tackle basi, you never know, you can get a discount on our name. It's 10th anniversary REXE Roofing. Happy anniversary once more. We're still waiting for the party. Mtakaribishwa nyinyi watu wote. Sasa tumerudi, wao ni binadamu ambao wako kwa fuliza, nchi pia iko fuliza. Capital infrastructure. We're seeing a lot of projects. Every time we talk about debt, we are told amuone barabara, amuone reli, amuone nini ingine. Kuna vitu tunaonyeshwa, amuone unaona barabara ya double-decker. You see the city is looking beautiful. But at what cost? It looks looking beautiful, but at what cost? What is the pain on the pockets of Kenyans?
Yeah, if you're asking about the pain, probably I would also say it may not necessarily be the pain, yeah? Okay. Because infrastructure projects, they have to be there. Mm-hmm. Because for the country to develop, for the investors to have an opportunity to grow and put their money somewhere, the government has to provide infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So most of the time, or how the governments finance their projects, it has to be through debt. Yeah, because you're trying to catch up or to give a certain standard of living today, and the other alternative is to wait until when you can afford it. But waiting until when you can afford it, sometimes it becomes untenable. So the people want the development today. So you want people to get clean water, you want people to get water to irrigate. So you have to have a dam. The question is, can you be able to provide that dam today with your taxes? And probably the answer is no. And even if you can, it's probably one.
Okay.
So there are so many interested parties. You have regions. So will you go and select using the old provinces or per county? And you find that if you have to provide water and it is through a certain method, that money has to come from somewhere. And debt is one of the most feasible ways to finance this project, because it helps, one, the citizens to get access to government amenities. It also improves the standards of living. But most importantly, it provides the people with savings and money with a way to invest, because most of these infrastructure projects are financed through infrastructure bonds. And these bonds, they come at a good interest. And this interest, they are at a level where they are able to beat the inflation rates. So it benefits everyone. Yeah, the investors, they are going to get their investment, they are going to get their returns. The citizens are going to get their services, and the infrastructure is going to improve the standards of living. And this issue of Hatukuli Barabara, Hatukuli Dam, the question is, the alternative is, have you visited areas that do not have paved roads? And you tell me, if the standards of living there, whether you would prefer that, or where you have an improved road service and an improved network, or improved hospitals and medicine and everything through that. And my opinion is, let the government finance the infrastructure project through bonds or through debt, but make sure that the financing or the cost and the budget of this infrastructure project is not interfered with. There is no corruption. Otherwise, there would be absolutely no problem with the debt. Yeah.
Okay, but people have argued, you're explaining now something that's directly beneficial to the Mwananchi, but you have argued they hardly or even at all not consulted on the project that they make, and define that the projects that are being done, capital projects, have almost zero impact on the Mwananchi. Look at it this way: you have an expressway in Nairobi, but the moment you just get out of town, like this, ukifika Kinungi hapo, the access roads are done. There's no access at all. So the question has been, even when you talk about the billions of money and trillions of money that are being invested in capital infrastructure, look at SGR, for instance. It ends nowhere, in no man's land. I don't want to name the owner of the land, but now we would say now no man's land because nobody has come out to claim the land. It ends somewhere with billions of money that has been invested in it. What direct impact does it have on the Mwananchi?
That's a very broad question, yeah? Because the government finances or brings infrastructure in several layers. It's not every infrastructure project that is going to benefit the common Mwananchi. Like, let me give you an example. You might say that the expressway, because it is going to be a toll road, is not going to benefit the common Mwananchi. And probably the answer is yes. But the question is, does it mean that every infrastructure project should benefit the common Mwananchi? And the answer is no. Probably we have a very good infrastructure. We have our Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. How much money have we used there, and how many common Mwananchis have used it? Probably a small percentage, 5 to 10% of Kenyans. But as they know, wherever they are, is that we have an airport. It's not only one, there are many of them. The same as GR, if probably it was well financed without corruption issues and everything, how many Kenyans are going to use it? Probably very minimal. But within it, you're going to have cargo being transported. And let me give you an example, coffee beans. Let's say it's complete and it's working and it is efficient. There's a farmer who has just 1 acre of land, yeah? And through probably KTD and such, they are able to access the market, yeah? Through the pooling and through the transport system, they are able to access the market. They might not use it directly, but they can be able to to get their returns. They are paid well and they are paid on time. Look at something else like FDI. You want to be a city that is a regional hub for business, yeah, that is within East Africa or Eastern Africa, that whoever big dollar company wants to invest in Africa, they should think of Nairobi. And one of the things they're going to look at is the transport, their movement from JKIA to wherever they're going to set up. And the government comes and provides an expressway. Yeah, so they come and bring in the infrastructure project and they put in 100 billion. This 100 billion is going to create employment. So while you may not be using the expressway directly, yeah, an FDI has come in and provided employment. An FDI has come and raised the profile of your country so that at least you're getting good education and health systems are improving. Because your government can tax these companies when they come in. So the question of we are not going to eat these roads, we are not going to eat this, not every infrastructure project is for everyone. Regarding the access roads, the road network is probably right now there are some devolved roads, if I may say so, and the county governments, this is where they come in and they're supposed to pull up their socks and probably deal with the feeder roads. But which one comes first? Is it the main, the A, the B, and the C roads, or the feeder roads? And I would say if we are going to borrow and build the A and Class B, Class C roads, before now the county government comes and feeds in the rest, I think we are getting somewhere. And out of the paved roads we have in Africa, I think Kenya has a big percentage of that, which is a good thing, I would say.
All right. Yeah. What are your thoughts? Capital investment, capital infrastructure investment.
So, on the infrastructure, I do have some thoughts on it. And number one, the thing is this. We have to cost this super highways and expressways and SGRs that we are doing, because there's no point when we look at when you're constructing in the construction industry, and one of the things you do initially is to look at a bill of quantities. How much is this project going to cost? You find that when valuations are done on some of these projects, the actual cost that we are told was spent on some of these projects is really, it's like exaggerated, even 10 times more. There's nothing wrong with building infrastructure, by the way. We don't want to be stuck in traffic. We want to move our goods. We want to move our people. We want to access everything we can in the shortest time possible. But at the same time, if let's say a certain road is supposed to cost us 10 billion and we find that it costs us 60 billion and the 50 cannot be accounted for. Because the good thing about construction is that it's something that you can measure. You know, it's not like the hair on your head that we can guess how many you have. This is something that you can actually measure. This is the steel that is going to this. This is the bitumen that's going to that. But the accountability part is really, we are really losing out on that. I do believe that with some of these projects that we have done, they were enough to do some major feeder roads or access roads, like we are calling them. But now, because the way I still see it as a common, without looking so much into the macroeconomics of it, if you had, you could do infrastructure for 60 billion and all that 60 billion is used, even the common Mwananchi is going to benefit from it. I saw the other time, I think it was in Nyahururu, where they were farming, and then they got so stuck because it rained, and they could not even, there was not enough time to access the main roads to take their produce. We all know when you farm stuff, they expire, like, you know, they are perishable goods. So they are losing millions every day because the main road that is supposed to connect them to their farms is really far off, and when it rains, nobody will dare get inside those roads. So when you look at it, this infrastructure must add value. Yeah, let's not build the roads, like you have said, that are leading us to nowhere. They need to lead us to a place. Sometimes you hear people, and then we are doing this in this current day and age. You find that instead of this guy, what's called the SGR, is taking how many hours to reach to, I think, Mariakani. Yes. It's many hours. Yeah,
and it lives in Mariakani. You have to find a way to get into Mombasa.
Exactly. You look at other countries, developed countries, because now we have the, because we are doing it now. We can learn from other countries that have already done it. if you go like to Canada, there are sky trains that will take you the same distance, like less than an hour, and you're there and you're doing your business and you can come back. Here, I haven't seen many people who can go to Mombasa and be back by the SGR the same day. And if you did that, you will not even be able to go to work the next day. You will be so tired. Yeah,
Might actually be dead.
Hopefully not. So what I think is that I have nothing against the infrastructure that we are putting up in this country. We do need it, but it needs to be in connection with something. At the same time, there's some of these things actually, because if you're going to borrow trillions that we are all going to participate in paying, I think a bit of public participation is also important. Yeah, let's not just see huge investments going up, but we are not even sure how do I exactly, even if no, I know Kanji talked about even transportation of containers, but I can tell you when you do an analysis, until things streamline, it's still even more costlier to bring in containers via the SGR to Nairobi. Because why? We now have been given an additional cost. You have to return your empty container back, which previously we were not doing. Now with the SGR, that is one of the requirements. You bring your container here, but because if you're doing CIF Mombasa, then at the same time you have to cater for a cost to return an empty container. So it's going to be important to dig deeper into this kind of investment, because at the end of the day, every one of us, we are paying the taxes. We have to be taxed to pay for this infrastructure. It's only fair that we are also involved in the plans, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. All right. I'm saying Akiru on Twitter, on YouTube. Akiru, good morning. David Ngaji, good morning to you. Good morning to you, David. Join Jage. Betting can never be an issue, Irene. It's a personal choice, just like taking alcohol. Right? It's partly true. Partly true, not true. Ruben Olefa, let's talk about the average guy who earns a gross of 100,000 but has loans 80% taken for their families. I want you to speak about that, Kanji. Let me go a bit into the comments. Ruben Olefa, managing your debts is not easy. Eventualities come and you have to spend and borrow. The government is the best example. They have less eventualities but struggle with debts. Okay. Fuliza is a debt trap vehicle. Safcom increased my limit to 45k. I used all of it without repaying and changed the M-Pesa number, intentionally spoiling my credit rating. The only way I could get out. They'll come for you. Ruben Olefa, it's not strange that the same Kenyans plunged in debt complain that it's difficult to get a loan in Kenya. When you ask a Kenyan questions before granting them credit, they run to Fuliza. They don't want to be questions. All right. Let's talk about these guys earning 100,000, but 80% goes to debt. How does this person survive? Maybe this person could be the government, because now we are 70% of our GDP.
It's even more. But one, I would like to correct our viewer and say that someone earning 100,000 is not an average guy. Yeah. That's a high end.
That's an average
high income earner in Kenya. Yeah, that's high income earner. But
there's nothing average about 100,000.
Nothing average about it. That's huge. That's a huge income, because probably it's among the 10%, less than 10% earn more than that money. So the average, we are talking about 25,000, and below. But how it gets to the fact that he is having a net of 80,000 is also a problem, because currently, if they are civil servants, a third is your limit, So 80% is also a problem. Again, earning 100,000, I don't know if that is your net or your gross, because if you're earning 100,000, you're taking home around 77,000.
It's a gross of 100,000.
Yeah. So, okay, we can use 80%, not 80K, yeah? Okay. Yeah. But that's bad financial management, because beyond the fact that we are talking about just debt, financial planning, financial knowledge, and financial education is very limited in Kenya, because you find some very basic things about finances, not very people know about them. Because as you borrow, you're supposed to ask yourself, am I able to repay? You don't need someone to come and advise you about your repayment. But what we do is that we borrow based on hope. And you find that most of the people going to borrow even from the regulated market, they're going to tell you, I want to borrow probably 500,000, but I'm sure I'm going to repay this within 5 months. But the bank is giving me around 18 months, but I'm sure I'm going to clear it within 5 months. But I'm telling you that they will never come. Yeah. By the 15th month, they are asking for the top up of the same loan. Yeah. So most of the time it's poor financial planning. Yeah. Poor financial knowledge, because not many people will be negligent. People don't cause pain on themselves. You just caught up in a plate of spaghetti and you just don't know how to get out of it. Yeah. It's just poor financial planning.
Are you trying to insult spaghetti? Or it's too warped? You're trying to say it's too warped.
Exactly. But the bank will not help you in that. And when they seem like they are helping you, telling you that from your collateral we can only finance you up to 30%, it's not you they are helping. You just are beneficiary of them helping themselves. They want to make sure that you are able to repay. And if something comes up, they can be able to cover themselves. Most of it is poor financial planning and poor financial knowledge.
Okay, all right. Most of it is poor financial planning, poor financial knowledge. If you're ending up with 80% of your salary disappearing, I think you're gonna need counseling. Just something needs to happen, because then it means even if you earn $1 million, 80% will still be missing. Because the most interesting thing about financing is, I mean, the same problems you're having with 10,000, the same ones you'll still have with 2 million or $1 million or whatever million. And so maybe, as you're saying, that needs to be interrogated. The CEO, first of all, how they were able to pass the limit of 1/3, or is it 2/3 of your income taken as a loan? All right, okay. But the most interesting thing as well is, now look at when the Thika Super Highway, talking about capital projects still, when Thika Super Highway was being done, every Kenyan was happy, nobody was complaining. We were all like, oh wow, the country is opening up, it looks beautiful, magnificent. Everybody wanted to use the Thika Super Highway. By the up to date, I've never mastered the use of Thika Super Highway. I still have to use Google Maps. It's as if I'm in China. But everyone was happy. I never had anybody complaining about that project as a capital project that has been invested where it didn't benefit the money, because it opened up that side of the road first of all, and Kenyans were able to feel the effect of it directly. When the Southern Pipers was being done, nobody made noise. We were all happy sharing the aerial pictures of where the road is turning around Karen, looking so beautiful. Surprisingly, all the investment projects that Kibaki was doing were majorly on roads. And they are majorly on access roads, or opening access to them. Because if you look now at the Thika Super Highway, if I want to go to Sagana now, I don't even need to worry about how long I'll be there. I'll get in and I'll be there. If I want to go to the other side of town, or quickly use the Southern Pipers, they begin to bother and disappearing again on Wayaki Way, or whichever route I'm going to that side. We hardly had anybody. I never, personally, I don't know if you had people complaining. Do you hear anybody complaining about the investment? But now, it seems that everyone has a problem with investments that President Uhuru Kenyatta is making, or the Jubilee government is making, in terms of infrastructure. What is the disconnect?
I'm not sure if you can measure the complaints, yeah? But even while they're there, like you said at the beginning, yeah, there is always the behavioral and the psychology around money. When Kibaki was coming in, most of his projects we could talk of, they were alleviating pain. People were in pain. Moving from Nairobi to Nakuru, Nairobi to even Thika, Nairobi to Meru, it was a serious journey. It was a journey you needed to plan. And you could get tired of being on the road because the roads were bad. So he came at a point where everybody needed it. Yeah, it's something that we need, and it is going to directly affect the common mwananchi because it's at the basic level. So what we were doing, we were catching up. Yeah, there's what we call catch up, that you're being provided with something that is basic. Yeah, that superhighway, we probably were supposed to have done it in early 90s, but because of whatever economic situation we were having, we didn't do it. What else did Kibaki do apart from that? Most of the roads that he also did were repair, like the Nakuru, Nairobi highway. It was mostly repair. But now, the next government that came in is dealing with an expansion. So you have to provide proof that this expansion is going to help. Yeah, probably a feasibility study was done, and you need proof that this is going to help the common mwananchi. Many people say that we needed not do the SGR because we had the meter gauge. Yeah, but when you're planning for the future, Kibaki was doing for the present. He was coming from behind and catching up. Yeah. Now, not only the Uhuru government, even the next government will find it very tough because they have to do infrastructure and plan for the future. That any company that is coming in, yeah, they can be able to plan and be sure that the ICT is well taken care of. Remember, we had the cabling from, is it Dubai, and it costed quite a huge amount of money. But many people thought we have internet. Not many people associated with this is an infrastructure that we are doing, yeah, and we need to be the point of entry in the Eastern African region. And for us, it's going to make us ABCD. We couldn't foresee it. But look at it fast forward. One of the projects that Kibaki did that was looking forward. Yeah, Kenya is actually one of the countries that has the best fintech. Yeah, despite the fact that people have gone to school, done finance, but there's a point where there's a convergence of the finance and the IT and everything, so that our fintech is actually very well developed. Okay. Look at the things we are doing online. I think we are the best YouTubers in the region, though on a person-to-person basis, probably Tanzanians are almost better. I don't know what's happening to our musician, and I'm not joining Eric Omondi, but we are having the access. Access for us is there, yeah, better than anybody else. So if you connect that question with the fact that people need to be asked participation of what we need to do, I'm telling you, public participation may not add so much value because most of the time people don't exactly know what they want. And that is a major disadvantage of democracy. There's someone who needs roads. Another person will say, let's start with electricity. Another person will say, let's start with airports, expressways. But you remember, we're dealing with scarce resources here. We need money to do it. So we have to prioritize. And countries can only prioritize depending on their vision. So again, most of the projects that Kibaki did were not structured with Vision 2030 because 2030 came around 2009. So that vision, what we did not do and what our politicians did not do, because it's the politicians who sell the policy to the common mwananchi. They did not tell us about the capital investment budget for that vision. Because if they accumulate the budget, it's going to be very expensive to finally achieve it. And I haven't seen the Uhuru government deviate so far from it. He is still financing it, only that for him it's futuristic, while Kibaki was playing a catch-up. And when you're playing a catch-up, many people associate. But when you're playing futuristic, people will say, why do I need a level 6 hospital in my area if it's going to cost that much? So the context is very different for the two administrations.
Okay. IRENE, if as a user of infrastructure, if you are to pick between doing an highway from Mombasa to Malaba and having the SGR as it is, what would you go for?
Well, first I also wanted to say something before I answer that question to what you're asking Kanji about why now we are complaining. But also, it's been shown that if you look at what the previous government was spending, at least they were close to the budget. But there is an issue in this current
administration.
If you look at it, you see that what was the initial budget has really gone high despite the original scope of work being done. So people are also complaining about that. You know, let's not say that Kenyans are not concerned about it, that the cost has gone significantly high compared to, and this is even taking into, let's say, things like price increases of materials and all that. Even if you take that into consideration, you still find that the costs are really exaggerated. So this has also is also bringing in issues where people are saying, but who is checking what we are spending versus what we are getting? So that's an issue.
There's something as well I've sent you guys on the group, so you can look at it, and it's an article on the Business Daily, and it's saying Uhuru's final budget is a suicide pass to our next president. Right? That Story. Let me see. Just try and read a little bit of it. Football and soccer is a beautiful game. It chiefly relies on the use of legs and sometimes heads. That's the physically part of it. Of course, the best players use their heads before their legs. The game of Raider my turn. Campaign to find for a way where and speak about. All right. As a former rugby player at school, President Uhuru Kenyatta's final budget is what the Brits call hospital pass, which we long ago translated as a suicide pass. In soccer, there are passes made right that might get you injured. In rugby, there are passes that get you straight to the hospital. This BPS is essentially the admission pass to fiscal ICU HDU ward that will bear down Kenya's fifth president. Here's a quick summary of briefing of Kenya's fifth from the 154-page document not yet in public domain. You will inherit a faltering Big Four agenda, and that requires devolution, but is nowhere close to being devolved. The numbers are not particularly specific, but you will be lucky to be running with anything close to 100 billion in a close or to 4 trillion budget, including debt redemptions. You will also inherit a high-risk debt climate that seeks the fifth Eurobond in 10 years. Fifth Eurobond in 10 years. There's a movie called Other People's Money that may guide your understanding of this scandalous state of affairs. You will inherit a project portfolio that is completely unprogrammed. At the national level, you might start with the World Bank estimates of 4,000 projects, multiply that by 3 to 5 times for counties. Every project created by the government, national or county, is now our turn to eat. No beg, just cake. All right, you'll discover that national security, military plus intelligence costs 200 billion in your first year. The question will not be why or what, but when this blunderbuss of blood happened in plain sight. Okay? At which point the truth, not fair campaign promises will emerge. In 2022-2023, government will cost, excluding debt redemption, quote unquote, shillings 3.3 trillion. The national government will account for 2 trillion. Revenue raised is, according to the Mandarin, supposed to increase to 2.4 trillion. Not to forget our debt is heading to 8 trillion before looking at parastatal guaranteed loans and PPP, contingent liabilities. Here is a short story. In order to run government, you'll need to tax us more or service us less. Which brings us back to the longer sporting story of where we began. Did our current president just throw his successor a suicide pass? That's a story on Business Daily. And it's interesting because the government is running again. It's going to borrow, I think, 5 times before August next year. You not even answered my question first, Irene, before you go back to that. It's depressing reading that article.
Yeah.
But now, what would you pick? If you were to get an highway from Mombasa to Malaba, or get the SGR as it is today, Irene, swali ilikuwa yako.
Can't we have both? Yeah, why?
Now we have a pick. Because they are saying, because look at it this way, the SGR, first of all, are said to have rendered the trackers null and void, as it is in Kenya right now, especially between Mombasa and Nairobi. So what would you pick if you were to choose? Because now you can only have one, clearly.
First and foremost, this SGR is not even a good choice. Like, we need a faster mode of transportation, not the SGR.
They gave us a praying mantis.
The SGR, I've used it personally, and I think it's pretty, I would say, slow. So I think we would definitely be looking at something much, much faster. Number 2, would need to know, and I think this is where probably things have been going wrong when we just coming up with, I know it's a hypothetical question anyway, but there needs to be a proper planning around this. Yeah. What is the benefits of each? Like, what do we stand to benefit between the two? What goods or products are we intending to move and to where? Because I think when we look at things like that, then you're able to measure and see what will be more valuable between the two, between the two choices that you're asking me to pick from. So before we invest in either of these, I think studies are important, and these are studies that are actually backed by data, because data doesn't lie. They should not be, sometimes what happens with politicians when they are running, they come and say, hapa nitajenga barabara, but maybe that road is not even, but it's a promise because they want to, and now they have to do it because if they want to run another term, people will say, what about that road that you promised us? And then you find people are not even using it. So we shouldn't be making decisions based on our emotions that are going to affect us. So at this point, Because I don't have enough data, I will not be able to. One thing I can say though is that we need faster, not SGR. You need to give us a better choice, and then we need also to understand what is the economic benefit of either of these two. And by the way, let me say this: it's not that the SGR was in itself a bad move. Okay, speed-wise, it's wrong, yeah. But the idea that was there was actually really going to be helpful if we got the right. If we use the right technology and the right amounts of money. Like, for instance, you find, even with the additional cost on transport of containers, we've now reduced a lot of the trucks that used to move on the road. Now they have all been moved to the SGR, and they're going all the way to ICDE. So there are still some benefits in it, only that with the time that we built it, the speed really that for me is my main concern, and then where it's terminating also, when it comes now to people convenience, it's extremely inconveniencing as it is right now. But the idea was not that terrible, given that most of our containers currently are moving from Mombasa to, of course, Nairobi. So it's really, it would be wrong to say completely that we hate it and it's wrong and it's not useful. It is useful, but could we have found more? Could we have achieved more from it? I believe we could have.
And the question is, if it was efficient as they would want it to look like, then you would not have to force consumers to put their containers on. Because I remember there's a time the government was saying it's a must. You must put your containers on the SGR. Because if, as a businessman, it's convenient for me, then you don't need to tell me to go and do it. I'll be like, fine, I'm bringing my container. But the government had to take an extra, Minister of Transport, take an extra step and say, you must use your container, bring it there. You must terminate at the ICD in Nairobi. If it was as good as they want it to look like, everybody would be running there.
Not really. I want to say not really, because sometimes we even are against things that are good for us. The nature, this is psychological nature of us as human beings.
Even the vaccine.
Yeah, we just do not like change. That's a fact. The only thing I think we hate more than anything else, and yet it's the most likely to happen in anybody's life, is change. But we fight. Even a kid, when the kids are small and they have to be taught how to walk, they hate walking. But is walking good for them? Yes. Do we now sit and say, the baby who hates walking, let's just leave the baby to sit there?
Have you seen a baby who hates walking? Because babies, when about to walk, they come on, they are holding on things, they're trying to walk, they fall, they hold on something again. They're afraid, but they walk.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
I don't know which babies you've been dealing with.
Okay, my point is this.
Want to be carried.
Yeah, exactly. But my point is this. I just want to say, they were not forcing us because it was bad for us. In actual sense, we resist. Even the vaccine, you have the vaccine. You did not, but there are people that are still saying it will make us die, it will make us unable to do ABCD. So we know all these claims, and people are saying, and yet the same people will remember one person who seems to have had complications, but we are forgetting the over billions that we have lost. So I just wanted to clarify that we were not being forced because it's bad. We were just being forced because change is hard.
Okay. Yeah. And I hope you're happy with the change. Now, please make sure that you read the article I have just posted there on Oro's final budget. The final budget is a suicide pass. All right. Please make sure you read it as well so that you can have comments that you would wish to make. I want to run to YouTube very quickly because I think there's some comments that are building up. Definitely, the financial literacy is warning in this country. Your generation GB did home science and business, which helped them with budget making and planning. Right now, we leave it to fate. Youths grow up in debt. All right. Infrastructure development is targeted to where the money is. So Nairobi is where the money is. Let them develop it. We live in an age of salesmen with lofty ideas but not tangible and realizable goals. We need to put money to poor man's pockets, increase his spending power, and the cottage industry will rise. We should reinvent and reinvest in Buy Kenya, Build Kenya, and look at how Australia has prioritized local purchase to build the country's economy from within. Ruben Olefa, I'll still go for the SGR. Okay. Ruben Olefa, definitely is very right. Buy, Build Kenya is better than any current political slogan. Call it bottom up or trickle down, whatever it is. All right. So that's make sure you read that document, that interesting article by the Business Daily this morning. It's an interesting one. All right, Kanji, what would be your pick? SGR or an highway to Malaba?
Yeah, before we even deal with that, yeah, we are talking about what? The suicide pass.
Yes. You've read it.
And first
You've
of
read the
all,
document.
I don't know if you explained to the viewers what a suicide pass is, but in rugby, because it's a tackle game,
Yes.
it's a pass where you being past the ball and the opponent is right there waiting to tackle you. So there is not even a chance for you to quickly rack. So you directly going to be tackled.
Borudia tena to explain to us the suicide pass. Okay. That sounds interesting since you are in
You know
sports.
the worst tackle for rugby is between your knees and your hip. So where the opponent is going to just come and put his shoulder there and bring you down. So, and for rugby, the pass is backward.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you pass the ball backward to your teammate, where your teammate is directly facing the opponent, who is just facing
He's waiting.
that place between your knee and your hip,
Aye.
just to tackle you. So that's a suicide pass. Because when you want to avoid a bad tackle, you go down and you rack. So it's a tackle where you can't avoid it. So is Uhuru handing over a suicide pass? And I would say probably yes. But the question is, that is the taste of politics, yeah? Because I haven't seen an administration that has been handed over a clear home run. Because the opposite of that is a home run that is passed to the winger and he
In
runs.
tour, we have a clear.
Yeah,
What was the battle?
we don't have that. Because even Kibaki received a worse suicide pass and he dealt with it quite well, yeah? Because he received a country that was dilapidated, the infrastructure was not there, the system of collecting taxes was not even verifiable, it wasn't clear. Even who was he going to tax? Yeah, the SMEs were on their knees, and most of the parastatals were closing down. So it was a suicide pass, but it was deliberate because he wanted it. Because that's the nature of politicians; they don't care the risk; they want it because they are looking for that power. Uhuru also received a suicide pass of the new constitution. Because the suicide pass for him is that despite the fact that collections were around 800 billion at that time, he was supposed to think and plan on how he's going to send 200 and something billion to the counties. The governors were also going to give him some pain because we had small gods of this country because they are heading their counties. He didn't know how to deal with it. Or there was no previous experience on how to deal and how the two governments are supposed to cooperate. Also, the ministers, we had the CSs coming in who are not supposed to be politicians. And one of the major benefits of having a government that has politicians as cabinet ministers is that they are the people who are supposed to sell their policy out there. Yeah? And he had now these CEOs coming from the private sector and they're supposed to work. We thought it's going to be a good thing, but we have seen it is not as good as we thought, and we are already thinking about it. Of course, there are people who are for it, others are against it. So generally, it's a suicide pass everywhere. So even the person coming in, the answer for that pass is yes, it's a suicide pass, and it will continue being a rough game for anyone who gets in there. It's never a soft area to, I don't even know why they fight for it. Yeah, but yes, it's a suicide pass, but he is going to deal with it. That is why we need to listen to their policies, not their slogans. Unfortunately, we haven't had strong policies coming from them. It's just slogans. Regarding the SGR, I had mentioned about if it was operating efficiently. Yeah? And the fact that it is coming at a position where people are being forced, you're coming up with a container and you have to return the container empty. Efficiency tells you that the major and how you operate a rail network is that you should not have an empty container going back to the coast, yeah? Because where is our manufacturing? Where is our agriculture? Yeah? Most of our horticulture are going to use JKIA. But our coffee beans, we can even export our maize. Should we only be importing maize from Mexico? Why should we not be the one exporting? And they're supposed to come from our inland to the port. And that is how the people doing the importation are not going to pay for the empty container going back. Yeah. So that is where the efficiency comes in. In terms of pricing, we cannot have a long-term infrastructure that is so long-term, you're talking of 100 years. But the loan financing it is short-term, 7, 8, 10 years, and it's commercial. That is not an efficient way of getting your debt, because there is going to be a misalignment. And that misalignment, you can only heal it by overcharging the users early on. Yes, eventually, it's going to be beneficial. I will go back to the sea cable, the internet. Previously, it was very expensive because they needed to repay back the capital invested. But we have seen over time, it's been probably 10 years, over time, the cost of internet has really come down. So eventually for SGR, if they operate it the way it should be, and then we improve our production so that we are exporting more, or at least reasonable exportation, then it is going to help. SGR or the road, clearly we can see both of them are supposed to coexist. It's like choosing your eye or your ear. You know, they are probably all working together, but they are not substitutes as we may want to make it look like. They are not direct substitutes as we may want to insinuate. Yeah, you actually need both. Yeah, because road has its purpose and SGR has its other purpose. Do we need them to be at 220 km per hour? Probably we would want, but I don't know why Kenyans, I think it's because of the global connections that the borders have come down. But as Kenya, we have a way of thinking like a developed country, but we need someone to constantly remind us that we are still a developing country. Yeah, we will not be the US in the next 10 years. Probably we could be in the next 30. But as we are now, I think we should think like a developing country. Yeah.
But the problem is that other other countries within the ESC or within Africa overtaking us. Those who are behind us are beginning to overtake us if you look at the statistics that we are seeing coming out. Anyway, now quickly moving forward, you can see it's already 4 minutes past 9. We talk about borrowing money. How else can, if we say we don't want debt, how else can the government raise money?
Yeah. I think those people saying that the government should not borrow should provide those answers. But the question is, how is that the government finance? The best way is through the bonds, yeah? Because the alternative is taxes. Yeah?
We have finished bonds.
Yeah. Yeah, taxes are that is how you're going to finance your development. But that calls for a situation where you have a balanced budget, which means your inflows and outflows are almost balancing. For us, that is calling for a miracle, yeah? And the other area is through licensing, because government give licenses. It could be even for minerals, even for companies to operate. Even leasing, they can lease natural resources of areas, national park tourism, etc. But the best and most efficient and the fastest way to realize this development is through borrowing.
Okay. All right. How else can the government raise money?
I think they can, if they give us a good, for businesses, if they give the businesses a good operating environment, then they can be able to increase the tax bracket so that, you know, they're not just taxing the few businesses that have been there, because it will be a better environment for even more people to start businesses. So they'll raise money through, of course, the income taxes and corporate taxes. But you see, you cannot just take without giving something back. So the first, their first agenda would be to create a better environment for the people that they want to tax, and of course create a good relationship with the taxpayers. You know, sometimes the taxpayers feel like they are really harassed sometimes by the institutions, but it's easier to work in collaboration most of the time as opposed to really aggressive ways. So if that happened, I believe that the government can be able to raise more money. The other issue is, of course, the accountability bit that we're discussing earlier, because sometimes, even if you raise more money, but sometimes the money tends to be misappropriated. It means that, you'll always be needing more money, but it's not because there's really the need for more money. It's just that what you budgeted for, because that's not what you did with the funds, then now you need extra money. So probably that also will be a good avenue to start looking at, so that borrowing could be probably a supplementary as opposed to the main
main source of income.
Income, yeah.
All right, okay. Kanji, now you've been tackled well enough. Anyway, so what effects as well does it have on the business environment, the borrowing? How does it affect Irene? How does it affect you? How does it affect me? The government keeps borrowing. Is there a ripple effect on the business environment?
Yeah, the most direct, or some businesses view it as indirect, is the fact that the government is in competition with the SMEs or with the companies to borrow. And for that reason, it gives what we call the crowding effect. That the cost of credit, one, becomes expensive because of high demand. And number two, it becomes limited. Because banks and financial institutions, or the lending institutions, they would prefer to lend to the government than lend to an SME because of the certainty of borrowing. And there is a cost of administration of that particular debt. That to administer a loan to an individual requires several resources, many resources within the lender, the bank. So the banking institution has to wait for your installment every month. They have to look at your credit rating. They have to look at your turnover, just to preempt a situation you're likely not to repay. So they would rather lend to the government, and that brings a crowding effect. And that is where the government is advised to borrow externally. And for that reason, the situation you're talking about, I think 10 bonds within don't know how many years.
Yes.
Getting those bonds from out there is actually a good thing, because despite the fact that it is a borrowing, it brings in foreign currencies, even when it is short term. Because some of these debts that we take are to repay other debts. So the other option is, do we borrow or do we tax people so that we repay debt? I would rather we borrow to repay the debt. It sounds like financial indiscipline, but that is how government debts operate. That even sometimes some of them actually print the money to repay the interest, to pay the interest. So it sounds like financial indiscipline, but unfortunately that is how the structure of finances is operating, and that is how money becomes worthless with time. Because of increased printing, we have to borrow to repay another loan. So it's a difficult situation, and affecting the SMEs also. Again, it brings in the monetary policies, that the policies within the government is a situation where inflation is likely to either increase or decrease depending on the government borrowing. Like when they want to get money out of the market, they'll probably buy some of their bonds. Into the market. When they're bringing money into the market, they buy some of the bonds so that the money supply increases into the market. But now when they are taking the borrowing themselves, they dry out the businesses, because the money supply reduces. And that means that the cost of borrowing increases for the SMEs. So which is not directly a very good thing.
Okay. All right. I was saying, Ruben Oleva, that John Kanji guy is quite good. I love his thinking. Those are the buy Kenya, build Kenya may not get the traction it should, cause the locally made products are expensive and of low quality, whether perceived or otherwise. Is a debate for another day. All right. Okay. Buy Kenya, build Kenya, quality, price. Another issue that we need to look at. Now, as the government is hunting for credit, how can SMEs as well leverage on credit or leverage on debt? And how dangerous or safe is it? I'll start with you, Irene, as an industry player.
So, of course, debt comes with, just like everything else, it comes with risks. Most SMEs, they do rely on debt, especially from financial institutions, to finance their operations or their expansion plans. Of course, we know the risks. If you default, then the bank is going to recall their loan and probably also take your collateral with them. But I think it's still one of the easiest, especially if as an SME you have the collateral that is required. It's still one of the easiest for a business to raise the funds. There are also other ways. You could call in shareholders. You could look for joint ventures. We know also there are challenges. Sometimes the partnerships fall through, and you are left with bigger challenges. But the easiest, as far as I've seen, all the and the other advantage is that the bank is not also there. All the bank wants is if you go to the bank or through circles, is that you make your repayments. They're not monitoring, and this is where I think personal discipline, also in terms of the business and the board governance, comes in. Because then they monitor that if you said you're getting financing, let's say to improve your functions or your operations, then that is exactly what you're doing. We know some challenges here in this country are you borrow money maybe for your business and then you go and buy land instead of doing whatever it is you said you're going to do, and maybe the land is not even bringing you any income. So these are some of the challenges that are there, and they need discipline so that as an SME, if you are lucky enough to have a collateral to access finance, that you do what you said you're going to do with it, and of course the discipline of the repayments. Yeah, but I think most SMEs are not opposed to the idea of getting financing from the banks.
Right. Kanji, how can SMEs leverage on credit, and how safe or dangerous is it? How good or dangerous is it?
I didn't say it's a risk, Yeah. But for business to operate, the empirical evidence we have as per now, maybe things will change, but things were different some years ago, is that debt is one of the best sources of funding.
Best.
One of the best. Actually, if you do some financial calculations, you find that it is actually cheap. Yeah? Almost cheaper than equity. Yeah? Okay. Cheaper than shareholders' investment, because you can imagine how long it would take for a common mwananchi to save even $1 million bob. Yeah? That would mean postponing your dream of having your own business up to 15 to 20 years. By the time that time comes, your business has been overtaken and has changed to something else. But it is actually cheap, it is well and easy to administrate. So what I would say is that for a country like ours, our biggest problem is how the product, debt itself, has been structured. Because we look at debt as only the commercial loan, where you borrow and repay over a period of time. But it need not be only that. We have other sources of getting that debt. You can get debentures, in where companies or individuals lend money to you as capital, but it is a form of debt. It's a debenture. We could also have a product like, let's say, even distressed debts, where capital is coming and they find a company that is hugely in debt and they are ready to take it up, maybe restructure the management. And that would have helped very many companies here in Kenya. I would give an example of, let's say, Nakumatt, that was coming down because of debt and they were not able to sustain the repayment. If we had a distressed debt arrangement, would have someone to value the company or the supermarket as it was, and probably take it up and restructure and maybe helped to sustain the business, and the business would be in existence today. What's the benefit for that? And the benefit for the economy is that the whole of that supply chain gets saved. Yeah, the people who had supplied materials, supplied goods and products there, those who lost money because the company went down, they would have recovered their money and the businesses would have continued. The people who were lucky to get paid, right now they lost a customer. Yeah, but had we had that form of credit, they would still be having a customer in Nakumatt, and they would be still supplying today. So debt is actually very good because it connects the people with money to the people with ideas. Because most of the people with the idea don't have the money. Yeah? So it connects the two. So when they are connected, the cost of it is actually also supposed to be monitored. But the more vibrant the business or the credit market is, the cheaper it gets. So for SMEs, they have a little disadvantage that the credit market is not very well developed in Kenya. But we are getting there because our finance industry or the financial sector is one of the most developed in, probably even in Africa. Yeah? But we haven't gotten to a level where SMEs are able to access the different products of debt. Yeah, that under debt you're getting this as a commercial loan, this as a capital structure loan, etc. So it's actually a very good source of finance, including even the unsecured debt, which is supposed to be there, but it disappears as soon as the government starts borrowing. Yeah.
Okay, guys, unless there's any other you need to weigh on those. David getting some of those are we have to start somewhere, and it is expensive because we don't have structure to subsidize Kenyan manufacturing and processing. We believe that imports are cheap, but they're not always. And I think we finish with this about Buy Kenya, or a protected market. Buy Kenya, build Kenya. And the complaint has always been the quality and the pricing. And every campaign agenda is always around manufacturing. He'll manufacture, he'll process. Macadamia will not leave the country. Coffee beans, as much as Kanji is saying we can put on SGR, will not leave the country, will process. Because when you look at coffee in the country, and you go to Dubai today, for instance, today, and have a Kenyan coffee, prime dollar. Anywhere else. But the farmer here is getting peanuts for the same beans. Is Buy Kenya, build Kenya achievable? Is it viable?
Of course, it's viable, but we already we had talked previously about what makes it almost impossible, like the bureaucracies that sometimes are in place are what hinders most Kenyans from getting into manufacturing. Yeah, so you find that the cost of even value adding, sometimes they are so high. You need power. The power here, it's also very intermittent. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not there. What happens in those cases? You need heavy power generators. So sometimes the costs are really, really high that people opt to just do the bit that they can and then push that forward to other countries where they will process and do whatever else that they have to do. Yeah. Sometimes you even find that, like from my up country, you find that there's coffee, yes, but the companies that are processing this coffee are in fact, I think, some Americans that came to Kenya and now they are doing that work. And of course they are not sharing the proceeds with the local farmers whose work is ending at just taking the coffee berries to them. And why is that? Because they feel that they do not have the capacity. They are also not able to come together and pull together the resources that are required. So there are very many barriers to this, but is it possible? Yes, it's very possible that we are able to do it, but we need policies that are really, and not just policies on paper, but policies that can be implemented that make this goal attainable, so that we don't just have it as a big four, but in actual sense, we are not really doing whatever it takes to implement it. And also checking on quality, yeah? We should have proper standards so that you're not having, sometimes you find you will go to the standardization institutions and you find like we have 5 different standards, let's say of chain link, you'll find they are not standardized really. So each company can be making their own kind of, they are importing their own raw materials that are not standard. So we need standardization issues looked into. We need cost of productions looked into, the labor aspect of it as well. We need training so that we are also able to, we need our people to be trained with new machineries so that we are able also to compete globally. But it will be nice. Most of the time, whenever you're even in other countries, you just see made in China, made in Europe. We also now need to start using
made in Kenya,
our own things made in Kenya, yeah.
All right. Is it viable, Mr. John Kanji?
Yeah, the viability of Buy Kenya, Build Kenya. And I think it's a campaign slogan, and unfortunately, Kenya, we love slogans, yeah? Because when you want to make a good plan, you have to do what we call a base analysis, yeah? And base analysis would be, what do we want to manufacture, yeah? and the politicians are happy because no one is going to ask that question. Yeah, what do we want to manufacture? Like if we have a very good source of revenue, let's say tourism, no one questions so much about what we offer for tourism because we know what we offer. And if we were to expand it, we can only expand, but we already know what we offer for tourism. Even the countries that have very good and very developed manufacturing sector, they don't manufacture everything. They have to specialize in some areas. And then from there, you have to answer the question, do you have the skills? And how long do you take to acquire these skills? Then the other question, do you even have the raw materials? Yeah? And if you don't have the raw materials, who do you collaborate with? Do you import them from Congo? Do you import them from wherever? Do you need to colonize someone so that you get them cheaply? Yeah, because some of the developed countries, they ended up doing that. So you have talked about a cup of coffee in Dubai is very expensive.
Yes.
So the question is, if we develop and add value to that coffee here in Kenya, how many Kenyans will afford that coffee? So also our pockets, are they that deep? So from my analysis initially, the short-term success would be us to start by thinking of plant Kenya, eat Kenya. Yeah, because we are already somehow well endowed at agriculture. So plant Kenya, eat Kenya. Is it a month ago that the president declared, I think, hunger or the situation of food in Kenya a national disaster? But it's very funny because you probably would go to Nyahururu or is it Trans Nzoia, you find they have excess food. Yeah, but a country neighboring it, they have a deficit. So where are we getting it wrong? We have talked of perishable food. We have cabbages rotting somewhere in Nyahururu, is it Kinamba or somewhere? But another place, is it Turkana or somewhere without even naming the specifics? They have deficits. These are foods that they can use today. Do you have airstrips there? Do you have a transport mechanism there? And the answer is yes. So what we don't have is someone to connect them. So we need a situation where counties should live up to their devolution capabilities. And we could have a governor who can be able to forecast that we have a shortage of cabbages. Another governor has an excess of cabbages. Yeah, how do they collaborate? How do they come together? We have potatoes in Naivasha, and somewhere in another county we don't have food. Yeah, we sometimes import, unfortunately, onions from our neighboring countries. So how do we connect? Because we can produce them. So before we even talk about cost, we have to reward the farmer. Because when the farmer is rewarded, that is how they are going to finance. Because farming is a business. That is how this farmer is going to get working capital for the next season. But if you have a farmer who has put in $1 million bob, and the whole of his produce harvest for that season is going to waste, is making a loss, do you think he's going to produce next season? The answer is no. They're going to plant trees so that they sell them for post to our KPLC, yeah, for quick gains. But can we feed ourselves? So we have seen from history that any country that could not feed itself used to overthrow the leader at that particular time. I'm not saying that anyone gets overthrown, because we have a way of getting new leadership. Yeah? The way of getting new leadership is having a democracy. That's our method. But unfortunately, the front runners that we have, I haven't seen any good reward on agriculture and how we can feed ourselves. Because we can talk about coffee, we can talk about tea, but are they feeding us? They are going to provide food in our pockets. I mean, money in our pockets, yes. But we need a situation where these counties can be able to interconnect, sell within ourselves, and that is the slogan that we first need to apply, that plant Kenya, eat Kenya, so that even our neighboring countries should stop exporting to us, because we are supposed to be the one sending food to them.
Right. Okay. Asante sana. those are through 1,000 steps. Start from one step. However, the first point we need to start is make the cost of energy affordable and make tax regime to be friendly. Otherwise, subsidies may not be sustainable. David Ngatich, General Bitok, you need to bring CAS, Osiani, and Kenyan manufacturers to the show, as well as brand Kenya or Can Invest to get us on what Buy Kenya, Build Kenya means, and it will take what to make it work. All right. Okay, I'll reach out to Osiani today, and then I can see if we can pull him to the next meeting. And then also this show needs to produce a CS or a PS in trade next year, 2022. But I hope they'll not disappear. Those are David Ngatiji's second. GB invites CAS Osiani to the tackle. All right, I'll call him today. David Ngati, Plant Kenya, Eat Kenya is the right way to start. I believe we need to build the sourcing and purchase from within. All right.
Should patent that.
Is it patent?
Patent Plant Kenya, Eat Kenya.
By the way, sounds nice. Sounds good. Sounds like a good campaign manifesto.
Can use it to
A
run
campaign
for
slogan.
MP. We will support you.
Plant Kenya.
We are behind you.
Plant Kenya.
Eat Kenya.
Eat Kenya. Plant Kenya. Eat Kenya. Panda Kenya, Kula Kenya. Yeah. It's been a pleasure having you guys this morning at the Common Sense edition of the 22nd November 2021. Tarehe 22 mwezi wa 11 mwaka 2021. Nimekuwa the Common Sense edition being the 22nd of November 2021. Na tumekuwa tukizungumzia mambo ya deni kwa Kenya na wewe mwananchi pia. And also I think we move to trade and how best we can ensure that our country is self-sustainable. Because if we don't look at the way the country can sustain itself, then it will be almost difficult to talk about these things of, oh, I'll give you 6,000 or I'll bring money in the mwananchi's pockets. I don't know if there'll be a government moving around akiingiza pesa kwa mfuko. It's actually that the economy is self-sustaining. Others will have a big problem. And the most interesting thing is the money that we're using as loans for infrastructure, billions and trillions, actually savings of other citizens in other countries. It's money in the pockets of other citizens that they have said, okay, you can put it on the side for us, but it makes money. So we are here, we are crying and saying, oh, leta deni, ongeza deni, debt is good. But you're not asking yourself, where is the money coming from? Because there's no country that prints money to give out as debt. It's money that comes from its economy. So we need to work at ensuring that the country is sustainable. Every other Kenyan is able to earn a living and be able to contribute to national building and ensure that every other person is contributing to the economy. As we speak, over 17 million Kenyans are not in the tax bracket. Why? Because they're not working. They're not contributing to nation building. So if we can ensure that we have those 17 million Kenyans working and ensuring they're productive, then trust me, you'll have a lot of money in the country. But until that happens, all these other things zinabaki kama kipindi na story. Lakini pia zingine pia ni vizuri kusikia kipindi. You have to make a decision. From next year, let's see how the country moves. That's been the tackle and it ends now. Bye-bye. And see you again on tomorrow, the State of the Nation, with the first woman in the race for Kiambu governorship. But see you kesho. Bye-bye.